Hello all, this is my first video and I want to talk about the difference between intellectual dark web and edge.org and also their similarities. I see these projects as somehow connected. Edge.org finished this year in 2018 after 20 years, and intellectual dark web is the most famous phenomenon in the media landscape of 2018. So, intellectual dark web, or IDW, is a term half-jokingly coined by Eric Weinstein, who also with his brother, Brad Weinstein, was active also on the edge.org platform before. Intellectual dark web is a kind of strange collection of public intellectual, famous podcasters, people who have large following on YouTube and podcasts like Joe Rogan, or if you know the Rubin Report, and then there are some other guys like the famous rationalist or humanist or new atheist Sam Harris. And as I mentioned, these Brad and Eric Weinstein brothers, who are also scientists and who have interesting kind of first principles perspectives. So just to kick off, Edge.org was founded 20 years ago by John Brockman. He's like a literary critic focused on popularization of literary agent, focused on popularization of science. And he kind of got together a collection of scientists, basically as very, very famous scientists, asking them annual question of, for example, what is the most dangerous idea, what is the most important idea, what is the most misunderstood idea in the science. And he wanted to create this kind of third culture, meaning kind of a culture that would unite humanities and these kind of public intellectuals who think in a more literary kind of fashion, critiquing the public policy or culture from more of a literary perspective or critical theory, and then scientists who think more like engineers or using STEM and certain mental models, certain scientific concepts to critique the society, but these scientists, they lacked, I would say, more of a ability to talk to the public, so the public understands, and so the public can make the right conclusions of what they actually the scientists wanted to say. So the Edge kind of worked as a collection of videos with 1-hour interviews with the different scientists talking about their work, about some fascinating ideas, and also kind of like half page to maybe 1 page replies to this annual question where you have maybe 200 scientists replying one question. So this kind of project went on for 20 years. I read several of those annual questions, watched some videos. I really like some kind of examples. What I found, for example, that that you can found some facts from those reading edge.org, very interesting, very fascinating. Of course, I have some favorite authors, but for example, facts like annually more people die in car accidents, car-related accidents, or through air pollution, that some thousands or tens of thousands of years ago there was the whole population of the world, of the planet, maybe more than 10,000 years ago or 50,000 years ago, and now there was maybe 1 million people, and now 1 million people die just because of air pollution or more than 1 million people die because of car accidents, traffic accidents, and these kind of facts and these kind of discussions, like what is more important, what shall you fear and what shall you fear not. What we are missing in our public discourse. For example, another interesting fact from edge.org was like that I remember just on top of my head was that how we shouldn't overestimate some risk or underestimate some risk, even is very difficult. So for example, one interesting reply was about the secondary effects of 9/11, that actually more people or the terrorists killed more people after 9/11 because then in 9/11 statistically it was because right after that people feared flying, and they wanted to they for a short time or for a certain time they preferred driving to flying, and driving is more dangerous. So basically it's kind of, you could statistically calculate that actually more people died in the accidents because of increased driving. This is some kind of like the concept or the mental model of secondary effects, or some kind of like overestimating the risk, or some biases and these kind of things. The edge.org was good, but what of course it was limited. It's a project that started 20 years ago, where you had no YouTube, you had no videos, podcasts, no online videos, and this kind of speed of internet and everything. So intellectual dark web has the biggest strength of it is of course that it is a project or collection of authors that focus about long form discussions, long form long form discussions that are online, that are very often on video, that are on podcasts. And podcasts are interesting here, and also various figures repeatedly talk about it, that you could actually download a podcast, you can listen to it while you are driving, while you are cooking, while you do many other activities. So it's kind of expands the attention span, expands the time where people can actually study on their own, and it allows for very long form discussions. So meaning like 2 or 3 hour podcasts, and then you can have this discussion over several podcasts. So you can actually even end up like with 10-hour discussions, different conferences, or different kind of even public discussions that follow on each other, and you end up with 10 hours of material, which is kind of which is totally different than from the mainstream media or public, especially TV, where you can get maybe 5 to 10 minute interview, or you get some kind of sound bites, like one sentence from a talking head from an expert, like, okay, I think this and this, we shouldn't do this and this. This is like one sentence describing the whole problem, and instead of one sentence or one paragraph or 5 minutes, like half page or maybe 1 page of some kind of text or information, you can get 10 hours or 5 or 2 hours at least discussion, which is online, which is unedited, and which can kind of give you much richer context, like, okay, this guy he really knows what he's talking about, and or he's totally like kind of off here, but I kind of get the sense of his general project, like so these are kind of this is the intellectual darker IDW, but I would say is that I see the continuation. I said that both those Weinstein brothers, Eric and Brad Weinstein, they were active or replied to some questions on edge.org, and I see this somehow as a continuation, like it's a symbolical continuation. The edge.org was described as the smartest web page on the internet where all the scientists meet. Of course, they had also kind of a mission, as I said, it was the third culture connecting humanities to scientists. They were also a bit opposed to something that you could say the French thinkers, or kind of writing obscurely, writing with this kind of literary fashion, but not being too strong on some scientific concepts, or not being too clear. They were also kind of, at least implicitly, or implying that we need different types of public intellectuals. So they were definitely. There was also some kind of small tension, but it was quite different from like this very polarized period of our history of now, where this intellectual dark web, okay, the name is kind of a half joke, but it has some kind of like connotations of, yeah, we want to speak the inconvenient truth, the kind of get into dangerous discussions, or kind of attacking the political correctness, or attacking the identity politics, or something like that. I want to say that I would like to see less of it in this discussion, because basically, I said what the Edge did, and maybe you could find some kind of balance. So I would say. What I feel from this intellectual dark web, it's a bit too much of this kind of pose posture, or how do you say it? This kind of we are the ones who are talking, who are getting into difficult discussions and objectively assessing, using science, assessing some kind of difficult topics. Well, it's good. I would like to see more of it, but I don't. I would like to see more nuanced discussions. Meaning, like political correctness is it's a problem. It's a problem in many areas, many communities. So it could be Christian communities, it could be humanist communities, it could be leftist communities. All have some kind of orthodoxies, and they don't like to be challenged. Like if you could come as a social democrat and challenging, I don't know, the orthodoxy of like paying less taxes is better, and you can find yourself on the other side of capitalism. Meaning, like that's a joke, but meaning like you could experience this kind of feeling like, okay, you said